Alright guys, so welcome back into another PGA DFS video. This week we got the Honda Classic, and this was going to be a good one. It's finally going to be an event that we can go out and attack, and it's really the kickoff of the season where we can actually go on and attack events. We're going to have a lot of yellow weeks. Probably not going to have many red weeks. Now obviously that's dictated by salary and prices of players, but this week is one that I'm really looking forward to, and this one should be a pretty a solid week overall. Lots of value plays that are sticking out, lots of plays that are sticking out in pricing tiers as well. It does seem like it's going to be a slightly harder week in cash. I keep having like 700 or 600 left over, which is fine, but I just wish I could make my lineups a little bit more optimal. But let's get into last week's recap before we get into the player pool for the Honda Classic. So we got the Mexico Championship here. Just going over the core plays from last week. They did have an average finish of T9. Obviously, Rory was kind of, I don't know what you want. It's kind of just a layup with Rory as a play last week, but he obviously did pretty well. Terrell Hatton was kind of the bold play last week. He was in the core, top 10 finish for him, and then Bubba Watson was the other player. He had a T18 finish, which is fine. Could have been better, could have been worse. Didn't kill you if you had him in your player pool. Overall, the average finish of the core to mid-tier plays was top 16. So that's really solid overall. And then value plays as well. The top three that I mentioned that was going out of my way to play, they had an average finish of T19. So overall, really solid player pool last week. Unfortunately, without Patrick Reed in the player pool, it was tough to have a great week. That just kind of sums up why I dislike WGC events, because I have a dominant player pool like that, and it's just not rewarding if you kind of just miss out on that player that wins. Do you want to go over the Puerto Rico Open? That was a pretty interesting one. From our core to our mid-tier plays, 92% of the players made the cut. The only one that missed the cut was Zach Blair, and he had a triple bogey on one hole. Missed the cut by one stroke. So, really solid week overall content-wise. Didn't see it exactly with the results, but the content's there. That's why I'm really looking forward to this week. It seems like the game, if we are like a golfer, the game's been trending in the right direction. That really good week is going to come here shortly, and I feel like it could be this week. One thing I do want to touch on as well is the DFS Open is this week. If you don't know what that is, a bunch of the PGA DFS talking heads are going to be playing in a golf event, a charity golf event. If you want more information on that, the link is in the description below. Let's get into this week's player pool because I'm pretty excited. Oh yeah, as always, got to do last week's recap. So the recent form course overview, and then also the stat fit. So recent form, it was kind of tougher this week. We have a lot of players that have had good finishes, but not consecutively, not 3 straight make cuts in a row. So Tommy Fleetwood obviously been on its hair. Daniel Berger's been really good as well, kind of surprising to some people. Shane Lowry, Maverick McNeely made a ton of cuts in a row. Brian Harmon, and then Denny McCarthy has also made a ton of cuts in a row. Same thing for Taylor Gooch, who I just left off this slide. And then getting into event history, Ricky Fowler has been super solid here, except for one random miscut. Other than that, they've all been top 10 finishes. Gary Woodland does not have a miscut. Take what I said about Ricky and apply that to Billy Horschel, essentially, slightly worse, but same concept. Ryan Palmer's been pretty solid here as well. Benny Ann hasn't missed a cut here, and same thing for Johnny V. The overall stats that we're going to be looking at this week are going to be ball striking, total driving as always, but ball striking is going to be more key. Bogey avoidance, and then we're also going to be looking at greens and regulation. Typically, the cut is around +2 to +4, kind of just depends on the week. Typically, that happens because it's a little bit windier of a course, so it plays a lot tougher. The winning score is going to be anywhere from -7 to -12. On average, it's around -9. So obviously, this isn't a course that players typically go out and score, which is kind of why we're looking at all those other stats, greens and regulation and bogey avoidance. Now let's get into the player pool. All right, so we're going to start it off here with Ricky Fowler. For me personally, if you guys want to play Tommy Fleetwood, you can. I just don't want to pay up that much for him. Brooks Koepka, I just don't want to pay up that much for him as well. Ricky Fowler obviously just has great course history here. T2, missed cut the year before that, and then a first, and then a T6. So just really solid course history here. Overall, his stats don't really have a weakness as well, so that's something that I like to see. Other than his first round in the last 2 events, he's been playing excellent. And I'm not sure what his tee time is going to be this week, but if it's going to be an early tee time, that round 1, then I'll really love Ricky as a play, just because the round 1 early tee times, or the early tee times at this event, typically play a little bit easier. So obviously we want him to get off to a hot start. So just get a little bit more ownership to him that way. Gary Woodland's a play that I really like this week. Second in total driving, second in ball striking. The thing that I like about him a lot, though, is 5th in bogey avoidance and 11th in greens regulation. He's already the top stat fit in the field, but if we're just looking at those 4 core stats, he's still the top fit. He's a top 10 in my model as well. So Gary Woodland's a play that I really like as well. The only problem with those 2 plays is obviously they're the top 4 plays. They're going to be pretty chalky. Moving on from there, we got Billy Horschel. So Billy Horschel is going to be one of my favorite plays on the board this week. A lot of that is due to price point, but a lot of that is also due to his recent form and also his event history. Obviously, he has 2 straight top 10 finishes in a row, and his course history is T16, miscut, T4, and a T8. He's a top 14 stat fit, and he ranks 11th in my model this week. He's 75th in bogey avoidance, which is something that we don't love, but could be a little bit better. 45th in greens and regulation, but his total driving, ball striking, strokes gained total, and total putting is all top 25 as well. That's why I really like Billy Horschel this week. Then we're going to be moving on to kind of the last play in this price range. That's going to be Sanjay M. Really the only reason I like Sanjay this week is just because of his stats. He's a really solid stat fit this week. So T51 for his event history here. And then he's 6th overall as a stat fit, 17th in my model this week. So it's not a play that I want to go out of my way to get. But if you end up on him, I'm not going to blame you. That's going to be the play that I roll with a decent amount just because I've been ending up in that pricing range. All right, so moving on to the mid-tier here. Daniel Berger's a play that I really do like. I thought he was going to be a 9K play, so I was pleased to see him at 8.9K. A slight discount, but still, we'll take it. He does have good course history here, T36, T29, and then 2 miscuts. So we don't like to see that, but we do like to see that he's made his last 2 cuts here. Obviously, he's been in tremendous form. Other than that Houston Open, he's just been playing great golf this whole season. Really solid stat fit this week as well. He is a top 10 as a stat fit, and he's top 15 model rank. He's been okay at bogey avoidance, top 50 in that. His greens and regulation could be better. That's my only kind of worry with him. He only ranks T85 in that, but he does make up for that being ranked in 12th in scrambling. Benny Ann, surprisingly popping. So this is a play that I also ended up on quite a bit, kind of the same play as Sanjay M. T36 and a T5 for his course history here. Obviously, his recent form has been pretty decent. Recently, he is only a top 36 stat fit, so I wish he was a little bit better than that. But he does rank 23rd in bogey avoidance, which is really key. And he hasn't been hitting a ton of greens, only 94th in greens and regulation. So his scrambling ranks 16th. So that's something that I like about him as well. All right, moving on, we do have Ian Poulter. So Ian Poulter is going to be an interesting play this week just because he doesn't have the best event history. A mixed cut and a T43 and a T43. We haven't seen him in quite a bit. His recent form is relatively okay as well. The only thing with him is he had 2 missed cuts before that, and we haven't really seen him too much this season. So the next play I want to touch on is going to be Corey Connors. This mid-tier I'm not going to overexpose myself to, maybe except for Daniel Berger. Corey Connors is going to be a good stat fit. Really strong total driving, really strong ball striking. The only worry is that he's 81st in bogey avoidance, but he is good in greens and regulation, 5th in that. So I do think that he's going to make the cut. His course history is at T59 here as well. All right, so getting to the low tier here, this range is pretty loaded. So I think I'll end up on quite a good amount of players in this range. The first one's going to be Harris English here. Harris English, obviously we saw the upside with him early on where he had 4 top 10 finishes. He's came back relatively decent, 3 straight make cuts in a row. Obviously that T71 wasn't really great at all. And he did have the missed cut 4 events ago, but he hasn't played in about a month now. So I do think he'll bounce back, pretty solid here. He does have good event history here, T12, T33, and T60, and that's been ascending, so it's been getting better each time he's played it. And he is the second best stat fit in the field this week. I mean, he is first in bogey avoidance, which we'd love to see, second in greens and regulation, and fifth in ball striking. So that's all pointing to him, most likely making the cut here this week. So that's why I like him a lot as a play. Russell Knox is a play that, I don't know, I'm kind of worried about it. Might just be a low exposure play for me this week just because of that recent form, just because of those 2 straight missed cuts in a row. But also, his event history here isn't the best as well. He's made 2 cuts and missed 2 cuts. The one redeeming factor about him is that he is a top 10 stat fit this week. And if it does get windy, that does typically benefit Russell Knox quite a bit. I do expect him to make the cut, but it could be kind of a nail biter, and that's kind of my only worry about him, especially at this price point. I was hoping he'd be like 7.2K this week, but I think that'll be a fine play. Another play that I really like quite a bit this week is going to be Adam Schenk, T30 and a T29 here in his 2 starts at this event. He's not the best overall stat fit, only ranks top 20 this week, and according to my model, he's only 31st ranked play this week. But I just like the price point, I like the recent form, and I like the event history here as well. So that's kind of one where I'm just going to bite the bullet and roll with him. The next play I'm going to touch on is going to be Harry Higgs. Now, Harry Higgs has been a stud recently. The recent form is there, 5 straight made cuts in a row, and the starts and the finishes have all been really solid for him. He's a top 5 stat fit this week, and I wish he had course history, but I'll take the risk there, and I'm going to roll with him quite a bit. But honestly, Matthew Naismith is right there as well. You can echo the same thing. Top 5 stat fit, and they're both top 15 according to my model this week as well. So those are both plays I'm going to roll with quite a bit. And then we have Taylor Gooch, just priced down slightly lower as well, who has made 10 straight cuts in a row. Got Denny McCarthy, who has also made 11 straight cuts in a row. Denny's a pretty solid stat fit this week as well, but he ranks out pretty poorly in my model just because he has 2 straight missed cuts here at this event. And then Jim Furyk is going to be an interesting play as well. 57th in bogey avoidance, first in greens and regulation, 34th in ball striking. He has a T9 and T46 finish. Obviously, he's not in the best recent form as well. All right, so now we're moving on to the value tier here. So Henrik Norlander, that's not a play that I love. The recent form has been okay. 8 out of 13 cuts made on the year, 3 out of his last 4 cuts. He's a decent stat fit play this week. I wish he was a little bit better. But overall, he ranked, I don't know. That's just a play that I'm going to be rolling with just because I've played him quite a bit this year already. I would just much rather go a little bit lower, go down to someone like maybe Mark Hubbard. Mark Hubbard's a fine stat fit this week. Made 9 out of 12 cuts on the year already. He's a top 20 stat fit. He's only played this course once and missed the cut, so that's why I don't love him too much. We could go down a little bit lower to someone like Stuart Sink, who's made 4 straight cuts here at this event. He's also been in decent recent form this year. 6 out of 7 cuts made on the year, but none of those have been like spectacular finishes. Brian Stewart has made 2 out of 3 cuts here in the last 4 years. Okay stat fit as well. But the play that I like the most is actually going to be Tim Wilkinson. So Tim Wilkinson is a top 21 stat fit. He has been making a ton of cuts. Well, not a ton of cuts, but his recent form has been really solid. So he's made 6 out of his last 7 cuts, and that's something that we'd like to see. Yes, he had the one miscut mixed in there, but given his stat fit and given his price point, that's something I don't want to ignore. He is a 51st ranked play according to my model this week. So, I do really like him as a play at that price point. I'm not sure, I'm not sure we should dip to the value range in cash, but in GPPs, I'll definitely be rolling out him. And then the last play I want to touch on is going to be our boy, DJ Trahan. Just a solid stat fit once again. Top 25 total driving and ball striking, 36th in greens and regulation, and 84th in bogey avoidance. I do worry about his recent form here. This is just going to be more one of those plays that I'm going to play just because I played him, quite a bit. Pretty much the last year, dating back to like this time last year. And then the last play, Cameron Piercy. If you look at his event history, or of course, if you look at his recent form, he has finished, -9 in the miscuts that he's had. And then obviously the cuts that he's made, he's finishing around T30. So that's just going to be a pretty interesting play for you this week. All right, that's all I have for you guys this week. If you're going to be around at the Honda Classic, I'm sure there's going to be a flock of PGA DFS content providers there on Saturday, maybe on Sunday as well. You might want to look out for your boy. He might be there. I don't know. But please give me a like, subscribe. I do appreciate it. If you guys want to join 9 to 5 Nation, click the link in the description below. It's $10 a month. It's the best value out there for you with the best results. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We're out.